Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Now, 007, do please try and return Do please try and return some of this equipment in pristine order. Don't touch that! It's my lunch.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. My name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And if you're a Pint insider, go to Patreon/The Pint. For as low as $2.50 a month, you get all kinds of cool stuff. And one of the cool things you get is the ability to request episodes, but also the ability for us to dedicate episodes to you without your requesting. So essentially, if we know that you like something, if you are a fan of something, a fan of a film or a fan of a genre, we might throw one out there for you. We've done it before with our friend Amanda Kennedy, where we did the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We did it for Shawnee Mac in The Mouth of Madness. Well, tonight, we're doing for our buddy Keith Larson, who was on one of the September episodes, Ed Wood, and is the head dude over at Geek Time TV. He's a huge James Bond fan. So I didn't want to really dig into what was his favorite Bond film or not. So I just kind of looked at the Bond films and said, let's talk about a Bond film. And I decided to start with the film we're going to talk about tonight. Let's get into 1995's With a GoldenEye.
Is that your Tina?
That's my Tina. That was my Tina. GoldenEye on this episode of The Pint.
Let's rock!
All right, so GoldenEye came out on November 17th of 1995, and it was directed by a guy named Martin Oh, sorry, go ahead.
However, before that, it had its debut at Radio City Music Hall.
Oh, okay. You raised your hand like I felt like I was a third grade teacher. Like
No. Just,
Mr. Green. Okay, so it debuted at Radio City?
On 11/13.
Oh, that's your birthday.
It's my birthday, which this is almost my birthday right now, and who knows, maybe this will come out around that time.
It won't. It'll come out about a month later, but happy birthday to you as we record this episode. Did you go to the Radio City premiere of GoldenEye, or?
I wish I did. No, that'd be cool. I've
cool.
never been to Radio City, actually. I'd love to go.
You're in New York like all the fucking
I know,
time.
I've never gone there.
Jesus Christ.
I gotta do it. I want to
right.
at least see the Rockettes or something, you know?
Yeah, that's not really like my thing, but that's like an everybody thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
it's an everybody thing.
Yeah, there's certain things that, like, even if you're not into it, going to see the Rockettes at Radio City is an experience onto itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so November 17th, 4 days after your birthday in 1995, you had just turned 62. GoldenEye was released. It was directed by a guy named Martin Campbell.
29.
Martin Campbell, 29. Was it 29?
I was 29, yeah.
Were you really?
Yeah.
I feel bad because I was like, no, you had to be like 38 or something. But no, you still look so damn good. Martin Campbell directed films such as The Mask of and The Legend of Zorro, Green Lantern, which is widely regarded as a terrible comic film.
Yeah, it was.
And also in 2006, he was given the opportunity again to kind of restart the Bond franchise. So in 95, he directs GoldenEye, which is Pierce Brosnan's first film as Bond. In 2006, he directed Casino Royale, the reboot starring Daniel Craig. So he obviously has been pretty well trusted with these films. Now, a little trivia tidbit. If you're a Bond fan, and I'm a Bond fan, I'm not Keith or I'm not Mike Simonetta, Officer Mike. Those guys are intense, but I'm a Bond fan. Those films generally through the 60s, 70s, and early 80s came out every couple years. They were boom, boom. That's why there's 25 of them.
There's so many, yeah.
So many. They came out so fast. This is the longest gap between Bond films. July 14th of 89, License to Kill, the final Timothy Dalton of the 2 Timothy Dalton films, comes out. GoldenEye comes out 6 years, 4 months, and 10 days later. So a very large gap.
So going back to those old Bond films, was Bond films a thing for you growing up? Was like, oh, I gotta see that, or because like you said back then, there was many coming out, but that was before really our going to the movie days.
Yeah, the first one I saw was View to a Kill in the movies.
Okay,
and I got more into the Bond films, I would say, in my late teens and early 20s. Because I'll be honest, and it might make me sound like a dumb kid. The Bond movies, the plots, there's a lot of espionage, there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of moving around the world. As a kid, I remember seeing a few of them and just being fucking confused by them.
All right. So don't worry about that. I'm still confused by them.
Well, I don't think you're wrong either, because I think some of them are a little bit less straightforward than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I grew up, man, they were always on, like TNT or some cable channel. There's always some kind of Bond marathon. And I don't know, maybe my dad watched, I don't really remember, but I remember always wanting to watch a James Bond movie back then.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't understand half of what was going on, like you said, still had the great stunts and the espionage and the ladies and all that stuff.
Super hot women, action.
I was, always looking forward to the next Bond film.
Yeah, agreed. I don't even know if they still do, but I think Pluto TV at one point had like an entire Bond channel where Bond movies just play all day long.
Mm.
So, if you pop on there, you might catch Goldfinger, you might catch fucking Tomorrow Never Dies, so who knows. So here's some interesting factoids about GoldenEye, or at least what became GoldenEye before we talk about the writers. So the 17th Bond film, which is GoldenEye, the original version lingered in development hell for about 4 years. There was a script worked on. Timothy Dalton was expected to return, okay? MGM and United Artists, who are the producers and distributors of these films, and their financiers, like their bank, had like this huge issue where they're each suing each other, and I think there's bankruptcies involved. So it just kind of put this thing dormant for a long time. That's why there was such a gap. In May of 1990, a 17-page treatment for what the original 17th Bond film was worked on. So here's some of the plot points. The central plot, which kind of shows up in the beginning of GoldenEye, is that a chemical plant in Scotland blows up. So that's kind of like what sets all the plot going.
Yeah.
Bond ends up on assignment in East Asia. And the overarching plot is that there's a threat to the British Empire, and it's over Britain's control of Hong Kong. There was revisions later on in 1990 and in January of 91 before that was scrapped. Timothy Dalton wanted to come back for what would eventually be GoldenEye, but he only wanted to come back for one film. And the broccolis, not the potatoes or the onions, but the broccolis who make all these movies wanted him to sign up for 3 more movies, and he didn't want to do it. Now, there's more to all of this, I'm sure that you might have in the cast part, but we'll get to that. So for actual GoldenEye, the story writer was a guy named Michael France. He wrote things such as the 2005 Fantastic Four film, the Ang Lee Hulk, and Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone. The screenplay was originally written by a guy named Jeffrey Kane. He wrote The Constant Gardener and Exodus, Gods and Kings. And then it was touched up by a guy named Bruce Fierstein, who basically had his hand in Bond stuff, especially in the Pierce Brosnan era. He wrote Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and he wrote 4 Bond video games, including Everything or Nothing, which was the one that starred Pierce Brosnan for like the PlayStation 2, I think. And in 2010, a remake of GoldenEye called GoldenEye 007 Real quick, because you can't talk about GoldenEye, the movie, without talking about the game. Released on August 25th of 1997, which is actually right before Tomorrow Never Dies comes out. So this didn't come out around the time of GoldenEye. It comes out a couple years later for the N64. 8 million copies sold. It is the third highest selling N64 game of all time, behind number 2, Mario Kart 64, and number 1, Super Mario 64. That Italian motherfucker has got it all over James Bond.
It's a me, I'm Mario.
It's a me. A couple years ago, we went to, not Terrificon, CT GamerCon, the other convention run by Mitch Halleck. And they have this room that's a free play room, and there are hundreds of monitors hooked up to different, Sega Genesises and stuff. And me and Lou Skywalker, sat down and played GoldenEye for about 15 minutes. Now, back in the early 2000s, I had an N64. I played GoldenEye all the time. Lou's a super video gamer. He just killed the fuck out of me. But the funniest part about it was playing this game, which I used to love so much, in, let's say, approximately like 2016 or 17. It looked like dog shit. It was still fun, but man, the graphics are all blocky and shitty. And, but yeah, you can't not mention GoldenEye because it's one of the most popular video games of all time.
Yeah, I have to say, after watching this, I went on the Googles and tried to find, because I have a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One, and you can't get it for that, although you can get it on a game called Rare Replay.
Okay.
But I've heard it's just not nearly as good as the original version. I remember playing it back in the day, but I don't remember anything about it.
It's a first
and I would love to play it again.
Yeah. All right. For Christmas this year, I'm going to get you an N64.
Yeah.
With just a copy of GoldenEye. This movie was filmed between January and June of 1995. The dam in the beginning of the film is the Verasco Dam in Cantonet Lino, Switzerland. A lot of the film was filmed in St. Petersburg, Russia, particularly fuck words today. The tank chase and all the Cuba stuff at the end was filmed in Puerto Rico, and the car chase or the race in the beginning and all of the gaming scenes were, of course, in Monte Carlo, Monaco.
Speaking of St. Petersburg,
say that word 3 times fast. Do it real quick.
St. Petersburg. That's
okay.
it. One time.
Yeah. All right.
Now, speaking of St. Petersburg, the story by Michael France that you said, he's from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a nice little tie-in to someone that I know. But yeah, I thought it was funny. From St. Petersburg, and the story's in St. Petersburg, Russia.
Excellent. Okay. All right. The St. Pete connection, we'll call it.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Let's talk about the cast, Master.
Shabuya roll call.
Well, like you said, we have in his first James Bond role, Pierce Brosnan. Now, I remember when this was a thing, and like they were recasting after Roger Moore. Yep. And everybody wanted Pierce Brosnan. Now, for some reason, this was a thing that, I remember people talking about, and it was, it's got to be Pierce Brosnan, but he couldn't do it. I guess because of Remington Steele.
So Remington Steele got canceled. He got offered the role. He accepted it. And the pushback from him accepting the role, I guess the interest in Remington Steele boosted again.
Right.
So they were able to do another season, and he was contractually obligated. So he had to say no. And that's why Timothy Dalton gets it. Now, what I never knew before this was Timothy Dalton gets it, does 2 movies. All right. Timothy Dalton was originally considered, I read an interview with Timothy Dalton today because I never knew this. He was originally considered to be Bond before Roger Moore. He said that he declined, and the producers eventually declined because he was 24 years old. And they said that he was too young.
Right.
And he didn't want that kind of heat on him. So years later, they offered him the role again, and he initially couldn't accept it. That's when they went to Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan accepts it, can't take it, and Dalton, his commitment to, he was filming the movie Brenda's Star with Brooke Shields. That's why he couldn't say yes. So when Pierce Brosnan got called back to Remington Steele, he was able to say yes. So there's a whole like mix up of how this happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of history about all this.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you know, he plays 007 James Bond, MI6 officer, military intelligence, basically like Secret Service for the Brits. You will know him from, other than Remington Steele, the Lawnmower Man.
That's right.
Mrs. Doubtfire, Thomas Crown Affair, some pretty big ones for him. He did one of those disaster movies too, like which fucking one was it?
Oh,
Dante's Peak.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Do you know a rule about Bond actors, Lloyd? I don't know if you know this or not, but you can actually see the results in the Thomas Crown Affair. While you are the standing James Bond actor, contractually, you cannot wear a dress tuxedo in another film. In the Thomas Crown Affair, there's a scene where he's in a tuxedo, but it's open and the tie is undone, and that's how they got around it.
All right.
You cannot wear a tuxedo in another film while you are the standing James Bond actor.
Interesting rule there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go on. I read a lot about him, but I won't get into it. You could basically write a book about Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I always liked him a lot.
Yeah. Then you have Sean Bean as Alec Trevelyan.
Yes.
Trevelyan, I forget. Yeah. Who he plays 006. So, one notch higher than your 007.
Or lower, depending on how you look at it.
Well, yeah, but higher up on the better scale.
Is he? Does that mean he's better? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
The lower the number, the better you are, I guess, the more secret.
So 009's a piece of shit.
Yeah, 009's a piece of shit. He's Bond's friend. They meet up. But as you'll see, he's a traitor. He establishes a Giannis crime syndicate throughout this movie. You will remember him as anyone who ever died on screen in a movie, basically. He was in The Patriot. He played very famously Boromir in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Jupiter Ascending. I don't think you've ever seen it, but the TV show Snowpiercer.
I've never seen the movie or the TV show.
He plays a shit character that he plays Mr. Wilford, basically the creator of the Snowpiercer. And obviously also Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, who, spoiler, loses his head after one season.
There is a pop vinyl called Headless Ned Stark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also married 5 times, divorced 4 times.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And he's highly regarded by those who have worked with him. They just really like him. I guess he also like study a character. And once he understands a character's motivations, he can switch it on and off. And he's pretty incredible, I guess, as far as acting wise.
He's a great actor. And I think one of the funniest things that I learned about him today was I looked up all the things he's died in. I was going to have a list. I said, I'm not going to do that. But here's what's funny about it. Sean Bean, up till the point of this article, I don't know, it could have been a couple years old. It had some newer stuff in it. Has died on screen, either in TV or in a movie, 22 times.
Yeah.
Lance Henriksen has died 51 times.
Oh, shit.
So Sean Bean is not even like the go of it. It just became a thing.
Yeah.
And people go with it. Because he does die probably in bigger things. Lance Henriksen probably died in a bunch of fucking shitty B movies.
Yeah, that's probably true. And Sean Bean has a definite different look than your Lance Henriksen.
Yeah, he looks like a leading man. Lance Henriksen looks like a guy that would stab you in a parking lot.
Yeah. And speaking of looks, we'll get to the next one. Famke Janssen as Xenia Onatopp. You will remember her from our episode of Deep Rising, where John said he was attracted to her because she looked like a man.
Yeah, she's my possible transgender fantasy. I mean, look, she's my crying game. Okay.
Right.
I've said it there and I'll say it again. I'll double down on it. I'm making out with Famke Janssen. We meet at a bar. Things happen. We go back to his place and, I get the pants off and a dong comes out. It's not a deal breaker with Famke Janssen.
Not with Famke.
No. It's not
this movie was right around the same time or right after?
3 years prior. So that was 98.
That's right. Okay.
This is 95. Yeah.
Yeah. So she looked pretty good here. Less mannish than she does now for sure.
Yeah.
Her big thing in this movie is she is a sadistic lust murderer. Right?
I read the same thing you read.
Yeah.
I looked it up today on Wikipedia and it said Xenia Onatopp is a sadistic lust murderer. I'm like, that's a fucking thing.
Pretty much, yeah. That pretty much described her. Just she squeezes dudes between her legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just can't breathe anymore. I remember that. I remember, back in the day, it was like that was the thing.
I remember that because that is the thing. That's the thing you remember that character for. What I didn't remember is that when she shoots people, she's fucking coming all over herself too.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, she's blowing all those innocent people away in the satellite facility. And as she's shooting, she's like, ah!
She was so getting off on that.
Yeah.
Yep. Then we have Judi Dench, or nowadays she's probably got a lot more titles. Dame Judi Dench as M.
You called her Dame Judi Dench.
Dame Judi Dench. You know me. I do
awesome.
that. Dame Judi Dench.
That's
like
so much fucking better.
G.I. Jerry, or whatever. Hey, that's what you get when you listen to the point.
Dame Judi Dench. Oh, I'm going to make a shirt with that on it.
I'll design it. All right, cool. That is her. First of all, the first female M. I guess the only female M. In her first role, the first switch over from the old M. She is Judi Dench, for crying out loud. She is widely considered.
She is Judi Dench.
She's one of the greatest actresses around.
She is good, and I like her. I like, she's the new M, and like I like the fact that she's kind of this older woman.
Yeah.
And at one point, she just tells Bond, she's like, "You don't turn me on. Like
Right.
it's your shit's not going to work with me. That works with everybody else.
No nonsense. She's like, I have no compunction to send you out to die.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about your dong.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, but come back alive just in case.
Yeah.
Then we have, there's so many people in this cast. Joe Don Baker as Jack Wade, veteran CIA officer, basically on the same mission. Yeah, he was also in the Living Daylights?
2 movies prior to this, he played the bad guy. Now, in the Bond movies, it's not unusual to have people sometimes come back in different roles, but it's so weird that 2 movies later, the guy who played the main villain in The Living Daylights plays this like minor character in this other one.
Yeah, pretty good. I like that guy, but this guy goes way back. That's why I wanted to mention him. He was in Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, he
was in Walking Tall, Cape Fear, Mars Attacks. I mean, this guy's in so much stuff. Then we have Robbie Coltrane as Valentin Zukowski, Russian gangster and ex-KGB. He's the guy that Bond shot in the knee and made him limp. Now, I like this guy. And I remember him from stuff, but the only thing I really can place him in my head is as Hagrid in the Harry Potter.
Yeah, what are you going to call him, Hottie Potter?
Hottie Perry.
Hottie yeah.
Hottie Perry.
You're a wizard, Harry. Yeah.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah, he shows back up again in The World Is Not Enough in 2 movies from this one. That character shows up again. A weird cameo in the scene with him, and maybe you're going to get to it, maybe you're not, is Minnie Driver as his girlfriend. Like, in a bit role, but the thing that's weird about it is at the time, she wasn't even really Minnie Driver yet. Like, Minnie Driver kind of became famous through, like, Grosse Pointe Blank a couple years later, and obviously Good Will Hunting, but, like, she has this, like, little role in this movie, and I feel like it's supposed to be like, oh, it's Minnie Driver, but, like, at the same time, it's like...
She wasn't known yet.
She wasn't known yet, so maybe it was just, like, an early role for her.
Yeah, I'm watching that scene, and I certainly don't remember it. But I'm watching it and I see her singing badly. And I'm just saying to myself right out loud, is that Minnie Driver?
Yeah.
And Alexa heard me, I guess. And she said, yeah, Minnie Driver is in GoldenEye. And then she started naming like 27 other cast members. I'm like, that's enough.
Alexa is like, so is Dame... Dame Judi. I can't even fucking say it. That's fucking funny. And also Robbie Coltrane was in Hottie Potty.
Nice. I got a couple more here. Boy, I'm going to skip over a few of these. Alan, I'm coming as Boris Grishenko, the geeky computer guy that you have to have if you have any kind of computerized stuff going on.
Dude, he has an 80s computer. He types in send spike and it sends spikes out.
But this
like
is
that,
so after 80s, man.
Yeah, 80s computer in 95.
This guy, I didn't realize how like celebrated this dude is.
He's awesome. Yeah, he's awesome.
FRSE, Fellowship of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. Basically, it's a title saying you are just well renowned in what you do.
Yeah.
And he's got so many awards: BAFTA awards, Emmy awards, Tonys, Laurence Olivier awards. I had no idea he was so celebrated like that. I just remember him as Nightcrawler.
Yeah, he's a showman. I think the thing he's probably most famous for, maybe I'm wrong, is he for many years, I think on Broadway and around the world, played the Joel Grey role in Cabaret on Broadway. So like the MC of the club.
Right. Yep.
He was well known for that. There's actually a story. I'm not going to go through the whole thing if you look it up, but Shia LaBeouf, when he was having all of his problems, showed up to a cabaret show, but he was like high off his mind, and he kept on fucking with Alan Cumming, who was trying to do his performance, and I guess they had words and stuff, but yeah,
I'm sure Alan Cumming probably owned him after that.
I think anybody owns Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. He's great. I love him. I can't really name many things he's in, but I love him every time I see him. Desmond Llewellyn.
Dude, I'm still laughing.
Damn duty, Jench.
Dude, you got to come up with something for that, like right away. Because I don't give a fuck. I'll put it on our T Public, and I will buy the shirt. I want a picture of her with like Jim Carrey's bull haircut from Dumb and Dumber, and I just wanted to say,
I gotta make her.
Yeah, like black out a tooth or something.
Yeah, right. I was just gonna say I'll get a feature of her bottom row of teeth.
I want this. I need this. All right, I'm sorry. You said who was in this movie?
Desmond Llewellyn, reprising his role as Q, head of research and development. I guess basically I just wanted to showcase this guy one more time. Samantha Bond as Miss Moneypenny, the secretary, replacing again Timothy Dalton's Miss Moneypenny. Moneypenny.
Dude, she has one of the best lines in the movie. So like the movie is in the 90s now, so Bond is like
the sexual harassment line.
Right, but like I love this. So like the movie is thrust into the 90s and Bond is now not allowed to be like a shitbag, although he is. And he's doing all of his double entendres with her, and she's like, this could now be considered sexual harassment. And he says something and she's like, unless you finally stick your tongue in my pussy,
Yeah, it's like what's the penalty for that?
Yeah, eventually you're going to have to stick your tongue in my asshole.
Yeah, that's what it was. Exactly.
Yeah. just when you think the female character is going to have a strong moment against Bond, she just is like, oh, James.
Oh, fuck. I skipped over one. All right, I'll go back real quick. The main girl of the movie, the main woman, I'm sorry. It's the main lady here, Isabella Skorupko.
Coolest name
Natalia Simonova. The programmer along, works next to Alan Cumming there. She's a Polish-Swedish actor. Also, she's a blonde, but she's a brunette in this movie, and I think she's absolutely stunning. I think every woman in this movie is better looking than Famke Johnson. As hot as she is, I think they're all better looking than she is.
Oh, Skorupko definitely is, and she also has the added magic of that deep fucking voice. Like,
she's great.
Yeah, she's another one that you take her home from the bar and you find out that she's got a dong, and you're like, all right, whatever.
All right, I'll deal
whatever.
with it.
Let's roll the dice. Let's see what's on the menu for tonight.
As long as it's not bigger than mine.
Yeah, I know what's on the menu tonight. Her dong.
Oh boy, what do you say we get into this thing?
Yeah, all right. So first things first, although we did have Timothy Dalton for a couple of years, who was a younger Bond, I think they still wanted to prove that this wasn't Roger Moore anymore, because the first scene of the movie is him running. He's like running fast, where Roger Moore was basically like just barely mobile. He's on a dam in Russia. And they don't say it, I think, in the movie, but it's 9 years prior to 95, so this is 86. He does a bungee jump because if it's a movie in the 90s, there's got to be a bungee jump in it. Off of the dam, he infiltrates this chemical plant through a bathroom, hanging upside down like Spider-Man, punches a guy in the face, meets up with 006, and they're obviously very familiar with each other. And they are there to essentially blow this fucking place up. They end up getting accosted by the Russian general and his soldiers, and we have a whole bunch of stuff happening. One of the things that happens is we see, or at least what we believe to happen, is 006 getting executed in front of 007 when he gets captured. We get a kind of a humorous moment where the Russian general tells all of his guys not to shoot at Bond because he's hiding behind this cart
full of some gas under pressure or something.
Yeah, like 5-gallon drums of this gas. And we get like a 6-minute scene. It feels like it goes on forever of Bond walking across this room.
You just picture this in a cartoon with a guy tiptoeing and you hear the little...
Well, and in this movie, you hear the squeak of the wheel, which I thought was a pretty good little touch. He gets away on a conveyor belt. He tries to commandeer a two-wing, a smaller plane. Him and the pilot both get knocked out of it. The plane goes over the side, over the side of this cliff. And Bond does the only reasonable thing in the world, is he jumps without a parachute off of the cliff, flies down, manages to catch the plane, climb into it, pull it up at the last minute, right? And that's the end of the famous, Bond opening stingers. I can say this right off the bat, Lloyd, without talking about the movie fully, is when this movie came out, I think I saw it like 2 or 3 times in the theaters, and that scene fucking wowed me to no extent. I thought it was so awesome. Watching it last night, I thought it was fucking idiotic. But I also know what I'm watching, and I just kind of let it go. But like, did you have the same feeling like, oh, Jesus, this is so corny? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, I actually thought the bungee jump was pretty interesting. And then the way when he gets to the bottom, he shoots his, whatever that gun is that sticks in. And then I'm like, and then, he lasers open the cover there. But they surely don't show you how he gets out of that contraption. But
right,
it's got to be interesting. And then they follow it up with the cliff dive. And all I could think of was, how, with gravity working the same on both bodies, is he catching up to this plane?
Yeah,
I realize you could kind of make yourself more streamlined and all that stuff, but it seems a little far-fetched.
It would have worked more today because they probably could have introduced the concept of a wingsuit or something.
Yeah.
Like that would have been cool because that's something you'd see in a Batman movie. He jumps off, he opens up his arms, and then he's got like essentially like a glider or something. He just fucking free balls it all the way down.
But it is cool. I mean, he drives the bike over the side, right? Isn't that what? I haven't seen it, but in the latest Mission Impossible have a similar stunt? I
haven't seen it yet either. I bought it. I have the Blu-ray. Yeah, it's like 3 hours long, and I just haven't gotten around to having that kind of commitment yet. So that's the end of the stinger. We fast forward 9 years later. We get the 64 fucking DB5 from the original Bond films. He's driving that in the kind of the twisty turny mountains
of Monaco. There's gotta be twisty turny mountains.
Yeah. And he's having the holiday road moment like Clark Griswold and Christy Brinkley, where instead it's Xenia Onatopp in a Ferrari, and they're matching dicks and driving, racing each other. They're fucking up some 10-speed bike racers, and meanwhile, the whole time that he's driving, what is happening with Bond in the car?
Well, he's getting interviewed by a lady who was sent by M to, I guess, assess his mental situation.
Yeah, so he's being assessed by this fairly attractive woman, and also scaring the balls off of her because he's driving like a fucking nut job.
Yeah.
And eventually, he kind of careens Xenia Onatopp off the road and, wins the little race, you could say. And, how many HR officials have you fucked, Lloyd, like during like some kind of like interview? Because like He fucks her. Like,
Right.
she's supposed to be, this movie, man.
They immediately start making out, in the car, like, soon as he stops.
He hits a button. What comes up out of the center console?
Damn, I don't remember.
Fucking champagne and 2 glasses.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, oh, you're incorrigible, James. Now stick your cock in my head. So that night, obviously,
All right. Question: her or Onatopp?
Onatopp.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Onatopp. There's something, I don't want to be squeezed to death by a woman, but like that scene where she's like, this might say something about me, but that scene where she's like on top of the guy that looks like Ron Howard with a beard, the general or whatever, and she's like biting his chest and stuff. That's okay.
Yeah, right.
That's
She's
okay.
biting his chest hair, man. She's like ripping it out with her teeth.
She's a fucking weirdo. So she's obviously Bond's target. Bond goes to a casino that night. He's in the tux. In this scene, we get a couple of things. We get the vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. We get the first ever Pierce Brosnan Bond, James Bond. We get her saying her name's Xenia Onatopp and him being like, ooh, Onatopp. They also play a game that I can only call Cards with No Numbers. Why do those cards have no numbers?
That really bugged me. I don't know if that's a British thing or what, but I can easily look at a card and know whether it has 6 or 7 spades on it, but just put the fucking number on it.
That's what I'm saying is like, yes, okay. If it's got 9 diamonds on it, I can identify that. I'm not a moron. But you know what helps out and makes the game quicker? Putting the goddamn number 9 on it.
Exactly.
So they play Cards with No Numbers. He ends up beating her. She gets pissed off. Well, Lloyd, in the end, what is he there investigating her for? What is she trying to accomplish? What is her goal?
I guess her goal is stealing that damn flying helicopter.
Yeah, she's there to steal Blue Thunder from our episode in
Blue
February.
Thunder, that's right. The unaffected by EMP helicopter.
Is that something that you work on in your day job? Have you ever made parts for that?
Okay,
fair. Thank you. I wanted to put you in an awkward position. So yes, she is with some kind of Canadian general. She fucks him to death, and the goal. She fucks him to death, and if you're gonna
die, that's got to be a way to go, I guess.
When Bond finds his body, he's got a smile on his face.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, like a big fucking smile. Her and the general from earlier in the film, back at the chemical plant, basically just walk off with this helicopter. They take the places of the pilots. There's no security.
Yeah, they punch a pilot in the face and it gets knocked out.
Yeah. They take the helicopter.
They shot him. They shot him, didn't they?
She did shoot them, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. They take the helicopter and just in front of everybody fly off. Bond tries to stop it. He can't stop it. So let's move ahead a little bit, Lloyd. We go to the satellite station and we find out about GoldenEye. It's not just the title of the movie, it's also a plot device. What is GoldenEye?
Yeah, it's basically a satellite-based weapon that can send out an impulse and just knock out all electronics, as EMPs do.
Yes, and that's why, so these same folk are trying to utilize GoldenEye for the Janus group, as we mentioned before. Spoiler alert, Alec Trevelyan is the bad guy in the film. He survived. It was a fake. He didn't really get shot. So they're looking... Go ahead.
One other question I had about...
The scar? I don't know.
Well, no, not the scar. The EMP. I've never known that an EMP will cause things to just blow up.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Oh, and the scar does make sense. I forget. The scar is because Bond changed the explosives from 6 minutes to 3. And Trevelyan wasn't expecting that.
Of he does. It comes into play later.
So the Russian general and 006 and Xenia Onatopp are looking to steal this GoldenEye and utilize it. So that's the MacGuffin of the movie. That's the whole
utilize
plot.
It against Britain, or
well, in the end, you find out they're. I think they're trying to disrupt Britain's economy, which I think is also the plot. Like the final plot device of like 7 other Bond movies.
Of course.
I could be wrong. So through the course of this, Bond ends up becoming very friendly with the what was the Isabella Scoruppa's character's name?
Natalia Simonova.
Natalia Semenova. She's the only survivor of an assault on the base where the GoldenEye weapon was kept.
Right,
So,
where you meet Alan Cumming.
Yeah, meet Alan Cumming. We think he's not in on it. He turns out to be a bad guy as well. He is a traitor. Now, the reasoning we find out through the movie for 006's turn against the British government is his parents were something called Cossacks. Now, they say it in the movie. I'm going to give you my best non-history buff explanation as to what it is. In World War II, some Russian forces called Cossacks, I believe, allied themselves with the Axis, like the Nazis and the Italians, against the Allies. So essentially they were traitors. As the war ended, the Cossacks surrendered themselves to Britain. This is including Trevelyan's parents. They surrendered to Britain, and they were told that they would be imprisoned in Britain and given kind of like leniency, like wartime leniency. What actually happened is they were given back to Stalin and just fucking murdered for being traitors.
Right.
So 006 has been basically planning on doing this for a very long time because he feels like the British government fucked his parents over.
I have to say, Professor John, that is probably the best history lesson I've ever had.
Did you enjoy that?
I enjoyed that. Yeah, I look forward to some more.
Come back next week for the Shroud of Turin. We'll talk some JC.
We're talking JC.
Talking JC. Talking Team Duty Jench on the next episode of The Pint. So in between all this happening, right, Bond goes and meets up with Hagrid, who sets him up to find out who the head of Janus is, and that's when Bond finds out that it's Alec. He feels betrayed.
Who nearly shoots him in the dick.
He does. He shoots him almost in the dick twice, but Bond's dick lives on. We have at one point Bond and Natalia get captured by the actual good Russians, and they almost like make their point made. And the bad general, comes in and executes the good Russians. She gets taken by the bad Russians, and then Bond chases him down with a tank. What did you think of the tank scene?
The tank scene was pretty great, I have to say. Seeing a tank crashing through walls and going through the streets, yeah, it was pretty phenomenal. I guess that's probably one of the most memorable scenes, other than the beginning scenes in this movie.
Did you notice that he was Tokyo drifting that tank?
He was. He totally was.
I didn't know you could Tokyo drift a tank.
I didn't know you could do that. Any of that in a tank.
Also, the other thing that kind of bothered me in the tank scene is he's driving through buildings and shit, and he's inside the tank, but the hatch is open.
Right, he's standing there.
Right. Well, even if you're inside the tank, I'm talking about he's in the belly of the tank.
Yeah.
If the hatch is open and you drive through a wall, some bricks are going to fucking fall in there. Yeah. There's not an invisible force field. He's okay. He gets out of it. I also like the fact that, like, as he's chasing these bad Russians down and she's in the car, she's clearly just looking back and, like, coming in her pants. She's like, oh, he's coming for me. Yeah, like,
exactly.
He floods everybody's basement except for M. It just doesn't work on her.
Right. It doesn't work on M.
So we get that chase scene, eventually through some more plot machinations, and Joe Don Baker's help. We find out that she figures it out. I'm sorry. Natalia figures out by spiking him with the 80s computer. She finds out that Boris is in Cuba, and that's where.
By the way,
yeah,
if you're a computer hacker, say, and you make a little icon for yourself, do you want to make it look so much like you? I mean, that seems ridiculous, right?
Well, you remember why he's able to do that, right?
Why? What do you mean?
Because he is invincible.
Oh, he's invincible.
Yeah. No, it's totally fucking stupid.
It's so stupid.
Especially when you're like,
funny.
You're hacking into like the FBI in the beginning. And like, the FBI's on the other side going, it's that fucking Russian guy, Boris.
And he's got sex on the brain because all his little passwords are joke related.
Oh,
what's in front of you but opens great doors?
Knockers. And then, one of them isn't though. One of them is, what do you sit down in it, but you can't take it with you. And she thinks it's butt or rump or something. Arse. And Bond is like, chair, dummy. Yeah. It's fucking chair. He's like, let me stick my dick in your mouth again. Shut up.
Yeah.
You're terrible. There is another cool action scene with the tank where Bond sets the tank up on a pair of train tracks at a tunnel, and there's a bullet train that Trevelyan and his people are on, and they collide. And I got to ask you, Manster, because I know my answer. Trevelyan and Boris and the General and Onatopp, they're the bad guys. They're on this train, and they're like the crew. But obviously, you need people to drive a train. If you're just some paid train engineer, do you just, like when he tells you drive through the train, the fucking tank, do you just drive through the tank? Because that's where I just go, I'm stopping this shit and getting off.
Hell no. No, obviously not. But, it's Bond and it's Trevelyan.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck his name is. It's Sean Bean. You can't say no to Sean Bean.
No, he's pretty convincing.
Yeah.
So we end up in Cuba for the end of the film. And they're looking for a giant radar dish that's very similar to a radar dish that was destroyed in the EMP blast.
Yeah.
Earlier
Joe
in the
Don
film.
Baker, he's like, you're not going to find it. There's nothing there.
We ain't never seen nothing like that over here. I want to go back a little bit and ask you a question. I want to go back and talk about the Q scene and the gadgets in this film.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen an older Bond film in a little bit, but the Q scene in this one, maybe they all have that element. It felt like the Naked Gun scenes when he would go get the stuff in the Naked Gun. There's the guy in the background that gets stuck in the telephone booth with the inflatable.
Yeah,
and at one point they show them wheeling him away still in the booth. And then even right down to like Q when at the end 007 picks up that fucking giant grinder.
Big hoagie.
He picks up a giant
hoagie,
fucking grinder.
wedge, submarine, however you call it in your part of the world.
An 89-year-old guy is not eating that for lunch, and he's like, that's my lunch. I thought, okay, that's the fakest part of this movie.
I haven't seen an older Bond movie in so long, but I think that is a thing.
Yeah,
I think that's a thing.
It's been a while. I have the whole box set I picked up during COVID. It's everything up to Spectre. So
yeah, I think you got me that for a gift a couple of Christmases ago.
I probably did.
Which is exactly how I watched this movie.
Yeah, me too. It's broken up into like the different years, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. That's how I watched it too.
Going back to one other scene, just to say, I don't think you watched this, but the scene in the bath when James gets out of the water and Onatopp is there, and then they start like fucking and pummeling each other.
It is a full-on fuck fight.
So it's a fuck fight.
Yeah.
And I know you have not really seen all the series of The Boys, right?
Yeah, no, only the first
Amazon
season.
Prime. There is a scene, I don't know, I'm going to say season 3, but I'm not sure, with Homelander and another one of the female heroes, and they have a fuck fight, and it is so intense. And I have to think that fuck fight was based on this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that there's not a lot of fuck fights to
this
draw
must be
from.
the original.
Yeah. Yeah, they fuck fight hard. Like, he's slamming her into walls and she's getting off on it, and then at one point he she's in a towel. He sits her on those hot fucking steam coals.
Oh, yeah.
Her pussy got fried. There's no way it didn't.
Sure.
And then he fucking, what do you call that? Like hip flex, or hip tosses her like a wrestler onto the fucking ground.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was quite the move. That pretty much ended it.
Yeah. You're all the air in your lungs would explode out of your body at that point. And not to mention your fucking unmentionables are now crispy and fried.
Ugh.
It's a bad day.
Imagine they got all those lines across them.
She looks like a Burger King fucking burger.
Yeah.
So we get to Cuba. They're flying in on a small plane, and a fucking missile comes out of the water. Like goddamn, like fucking Gypsy Danger from Pacific Rim is like underwater. Blasts a missile out.
I don't know about you, but it never fooled me for a second that thing was under the water.
No, everything.
Not even for 1 second did I not think it was under there.
Yeah. Bond didn't figure it out, but apparently the answer to where everything is hidden in this movie is under the water, because the missile launcher is down there.
Yeah.
The giant fucking radar dish that comes up is down there. they end up infiltrating the base again. And to kind of move through this, Bond sets up a couple of explosives, and also I don't know, he fucking punctures some more. There's a ton of fucking kegs of shit in this movie. He punctures a couple of kegs of like a fuel and ends up blowing up this base. And this is where he has to get up onto the satellite dish to manually shut it off, because this is where 006 is attempting to set GoldenEye up to shut London down again.
EMP the fuck out of everything.
EMP the fuck out of it. They have a pretty good fight on top of the dish. Manster, how does Sean Bean get dispatched in this film?
I'm not remembering the details of it. I know they're fighting up on the dish.
Pretty much it.
And basically he knocks him off and he falls what looks like at least 200 feet.
Yeah.
And lands on his back, and you actually see him land, with his leg sideways, but he's not dead yet.
No.
Somehow that doesn't bust his heart and lungs right out of the other side of his body.
He should have been liquid at that point. Do they show him actually get killed in another way, or is it the explosion that kills him?
It's the explosion,
Yeah.
It's sort of implied.
So Bond sets this thing to explode. Boris, the hacker who keeps saying he's invincible, ends up not being so invincible. He gets blasted. There's more fucking barrels, this time of some kind of refrigerant. He gets blasted with refrigerant and gets frozen into a statue of him Hulk Hoganing it up.
Nitrogen or something.
Yeah. So that's essentially the end of the movie. Everything blows up, and the Marines and Joe Don Baker show up and rescue Bond. And it ends with him basically just being like to Natalia, like, let's go fuck. Let's do this. Let's go make some love. Is this the part
when they're on the beach and they're just hanging together? Or
the beach is before. That's before they go to Cuba. That's wherever they are when they meet Joe Don Baker and trade the car for the.
That's right. So
yeah,
to me, that's sort of a scene that really ushers in the 21st century Bond.
Okay.
Maybe I'll just talk about that in the rating, because that was sort of something that stood out.
All right. Okay, so that is GoldenEye from 1995, the 17th James Bond film, the first that featured Pierce Brosnan. Let's talk about the box office.
Where's the money? When are you going to get the money? Why aren't you getting the money now? And so on. So please, the money.
Yes, so this thing had a budget of $60 million. Doesn't seem like much these days, right?
Not at all.
Yeah. But this was 95, so yeah, 60 million. Opening weekend, it made 26.2 million, and that weekend, which was November 17th through the 19th of 95, the number 5 movie was Get Shorty, which I remember really enjoying that.
Yeah, I saw that once.
Elmore Leonard. Yeah. 4.3 million. 8 Takes Two at number 4, also in its first week of release.
I have no clue what that is. Is that a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movie?
I don't freaking know.
Sounds like it.
I didn't bother looking it up. The American President at number 3.
Oh, I've never seen that, but that's Michael Douglas and
10 million. I haven't seen it either. Number 2, Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
I've seen that. He comes out of a rhinoceros's ass.
Yeah.
And yep.
Well, as I don't know if I've mentioned here before, but it's certainly been a topic of late of me not really being a fan of the Ace Ventura movies.
Yeah, well, you're not inherently a silly man, which is fine. I love you for who you are. Yeah. And you have to be a silly person. I'm a silly person, so I'm okay with that. But you're not inherently a silly guy.
All right. I'll take that. I'll own that. The second week of release, 19 million. And number 1 was GoldenEye, 26.2 million. That's pretty good.
GoldenEye. It's Tina Turner, by the way, did the theme for this, and it was written by. Do you know who it was written by?
Yeah, dude, I didn't write it down, but damn, I can't remember.
Bono and the Edge.
Yeah, Bono and the Edge. That's right. That's right. Yep.
What kind of a band is U2 where 2 of the guys are named Bono and the Edge, and the other 2 guys are Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen Jr.?
Yeah. Although they have something new out. They did that big thing in Las Vegas in the Sphere?
Yeah.
I haven't checked it out, but I heard a new song on the radio. Anyway, yeah, that's it. So open at 26.2. The box office for the year in the U.S. was 106 million. In worldwide, and I think this is all releases because it was re-released a couple times. One time where it made, I think, an extra $500.
Oh, nice.
352.5 million worldwide.
Yeah, it is a huge hit. It's a huge hit. And obviously we got 3 more Bond films with Pierce Brosnan that all did well, and until they decided they had to, essentially what ended up happening was the last Brosnan Bond film is really fucking dumb. Like, they really got out of control with the dumb. There's an invisible car in it. And at that point, I think the producers saw the writing on the wall that, like, Jason Bourne and Mission Impossible were eating their fucking lunch.
Exactly.
And they had to do something harder and something a little bit grittier. And that's where they went to with Casino Royale and the Daniel Craig ones. And whether or not you like those 4 or 5 movies, you can't deny that, like, Casino Royale is such a different movie than something like Die Another Day or this film. All right, box office all set. Let's rate this thing.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. It was fun.
0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever, quarter and half scale optional. Manster, I'm going to let you go first, then I'm going to read off some of our Pint Insiders, then I'll go last.
All right. I'm looking forward to hearing that. So like I said before, I used to love as a kid, I guess maybe young teenager, every Bond movie. I used to try and watch them on TV just to say that I saw them all. Even if I didn't quite understand everything, I still loved it. And I was looking forward to rewatching this because I hadn't seen it in so long. It opens, like a Bond movie is supposed to do. GoldenEye does it all. So it opens with a pretty big stunt. Then it tops it off with a bigger stunt, and then it goes into its credits. By the way, I've always loved the Bond opening credits with the dots and the spirals and the tunnels and the naked women in shadow. I love all that stuff. It's pretty good.
I like it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it gives you, the sexy villainous girl with some suggestive name. And then it gives you like a even prettier, more wholesome girl who's kind of like the one that Bond latches onto and the one he has sex with. It's just so it's the formula. It is the Bond formula, no doubt. You're fighting a bad guy who wants world domination. And not only that, he absolutely needs to explain it to you rather than kill you. Right?
Oh, James.
It's just all there. But in this one, you get into the 21st century and you get that scene of them on the beach. And, she says, Natalia asks him, how can you act like this? How can you be so cold? And, you get the more sensitive and vulnerable James Bond. And he's like, it's what keeps me alive. You know what? Before this movie, that never happened. It was that whole exchange would have never happened at all. It was just the girl accepting that she was going to get fucked by James Bond.
Yeah. Overall.
Yeah.
Overall. They did have the one where he got married and
right.
She dies and with George Lazenby. But yeah, you're right. Generally, these chicks are just like, toss away bang material. And there's a little bit. I think they were aware of the time they were writing this in.
Right. Times were changing.
Yeah.
And I think they had to usher in a new Bond, just a new style of, Bond. It's sensitive. Which obviously continued, with Daniel Craig. And I like it. However, all Bond movies are probably too long and bloated. I call it Bond bloat. There's just so much in there that's not really necessary, but it's James Bond, so they throw it in. And there's a point in, I think, every Bond movie where I just start checking out. And even in this movie, it happens in this movie as well. And I try to reel it back in so I can enjoy the ending. So I think it's very good. It's got some great stunts and effects, but I just wish it was tightened up a little. I wish James Bond movies weren't 2.5 to 3 hours. That's all.
This one's only 2, but I agree.
2 hours and like 10 minutes, I think.
I agree with you about the bloat. I do totally agree.
I got to the like hour and 40 minutes, and I was like, oh, I hope they're wrapping it up. And I'm like, there's still another half hour to go.
Right.
Anyway, I enjoy it. I'm not going to give it a hugely, high score, crazy. It's not going to be my, if I go first, I rate it a 5. But I'm going to give it a 3.25.
Let's go to some of the insiders. Sal from Robert Barron's Inc. He didn't rate it, but he wrote, "Oh, you're starting with the worst Bond first. Good plan." So apparently,
worst.
apparently he's not a fan of Pierce Brosnan. John Peck, our good buddy, Templeton Peck. I haven't watched this in probably a decade, 3.5 from memory. If you need me to record my rendition of the theme by Tina Turner for the episode, just ask. Chris Frodell, our good buddy, arguing with myself, gives a 5 out of 5, but only for the game that sprouted from it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the man of the hour, Keith Larson, the guy that we did this dedication for, over at Geek Time TV. Check them out on YouTube. Gives it a 3.75 and injected new life into the franchise. Definitely the best of the Brosnan run, which saw each film degrade in quality in succession, culminating in the awful Die Another Day. 100% right.
Yep, you're right.
And then Officer Mike, another huge Bond fan. An amazing rebirth for the franchise. Seeing that opening bungee jump down the dam in the theater got you in just the right mood for action to come. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Great villain in Alec Trevelyan. A true match for Bond finally. 4.0 in my top 5 Bond films. And he finishes it off with, they need to let Martin Campbell direct all the Bond movies, which not wrong. Not wrong. The guy obviously has a lock on it, and they trusted him enough to bring him back for the reboot with Casino Royale. All right, so I'm going to mirror you 100%, 3.25.
Okay.
If you had asked me years and years ago, it would have been higher. I had not seen this movie in quite a while, and as Mike had just kind of mentioned before, that opening dam scene, I remember seeing that in movies and being like, my nipples were hard, my dick was hard, like everything was hard. And maybe it's because I'm 48 now and nothing gets hard anymore.
It's harder to get hard.
It's harder to get hard. Now as a 48-year-old man instead of a 20-year-old man, as I watched that scene, I was just like, this is so goddamn stupid. Like, I was mad at it. He'll never be able to jump off this goddamn plane and end up in the plane and in the plane. The goddamn Dame Duty. Dame Duty Jench. Goddamn her. It's still a fun movie. It's still a good start to Pierce Brosnan's run. Pierce Brosnan is an excellent Bond. But man, oh man, he's such a fucking pig. Bond is such a pig. I'm saying that as a man watching this movie in 2023. Like, he's fucking seducing the woman who's there to fucking certify that he's like okay to continue his duty. He's just such a fucking pig. We didn't mention when he kills Xenia Onatopp. It's a pretty badass scene. She's fighting him attached to a helicopter, and she's on like this rope that's attached to a helicopter floating above, and he ends up shooting the helicopter, so the pilot goes out of control, and it fucking whips her up into like a V-shaped branch in a tree and just breaks her back. And he says, you get the good Bond one-liner of she always did like a good squeeze.
That's it.
I could not mention that. Because as they were going along, you figured he's going to just fuck her to death. He doesn't fuck her to death. A tree fucks her to death. But no, it's a 3.25. It's a fun movie. Like you said, the opening action scene, the stinger is good. The tank chase is good. The end, like the fist fight on the actual satellite is good. And as Mike mentioned, Trevelyan is a good villain. His motivations are interesting. They'll be repeated again down the line in
Cossacks. I loved your explanation of the Cossacks.
Thank you. I'll be teaching a course on the Cossacks at the Middlesex Community College Annex on Thursday nights. Like in Skyfall, we have another villain that's mad at particularly at M, but also at the British, Secret Service and government and all this stuff. So these themes kind of repeat in these movies, but Sean Bean's very good. The cast is very good. And it's a fun movie, but it definitely doesn't hit the same spot that it hit for me back in like 1995.
Yeah.
That said, I do agree with Keith. Out of the four, it's probably the best of the Bond films. I think, if I remember correctly, I like The World Is Not Enough quite a bit, but Tomorrow Never Dies, the next one, is probably a little bit worse than this. We'll do some more Bond movies. We both got these box sets. We'll do some more as the year comes through, in 2024. But that's it. So just want to dedicate this one to you, Keith. Thank you so much. And Manster, tell everybody where they can find us and get the words out to get us out of here.
Find us anywhere you like to listen to your podcast. We're probably there. Facebook and YouTube, it's The Pint, a pop culture podcast. On Instagram and Threads, it's at The Pint Podcast. And Patreon, becoming a Pint Insider at www.patreon.com/The Pint. All I got today is see ya.
Dame Duty Gench forever. I'm sorry, but that fucking kills me.
Perry Hater.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!